Picking apart these so-called one-hit albums seems to be quite a trend here with these 90s CDs. Probably a combination of hand-me-down music and the restrictive and overly saturated radio market, and the difficulties of creating an entire album of memorable songs. Fortunately, I've been able to find something I wasn't looking for in almost every case, and I hope this wouldn't be any different considering it's ranked 18th in the UK's top selling albums of all time. In this case, I'm sure the minute you hear the Verve, you're thinking of Bittersweet Symphony, and of course it's a poignant orchestral lament on societal realities, but I'm pretty certain that Richard Ashcroft, Nick McCabe, Simon Jones, Peter Salisbury, and Simon Tong all feel like they've got a little bit more to offer than that massive hit off this 1997 compact disc, particularly because 100% of this track's royalties went to Alan Klein and the writing credits went to Mick Jagger and Keith Richards. This is their third full-length studio record through Hut Records. This is the Verve's Urban Hymns. After developing a more conventional alt-rock sound on their second album, A Northern Soul, whose title track is dedicated to Oasis's Noel Gallagher, the band would then break up for a brief period and wouldn't make a single live performance in all of '96. Then, during the recording process of this album, Ashcroft made a decision he'd later go on to admitting to regretting, and invited Nick McCabe back and to join his replacement Simon Tong and go through a spiritual recording process to finish this off. It opens up with a statement. Bittersweet Symphony is an exclamation point that continues to echo 20 years later. Using 4 orchestral bars from Andrew Oldham's orchestra's recording of the Rolling Stones' The Last Time, which they negotiated the rights for through the copyright holder Decca Records, but the license owner, the former Stones manager, refused to give it to them, and when it became a huge hit, he just sued them for all the royalties. Richard Ashcroft only received, I think it was £1,000 or euros or dollars or something, up until last year when Mick and Keith finally signed over the publishing rights to him. It ironically won the Rolling Stones magazine Song of the Year, and they even were featured on the cover of it in 1998. The music video is an homage to the Massive Attack's Unfinished Sympathy, and it even was nominated for a number of MTV Music Video Awards. Regarded as one of the most successful Britpop numbers ever, this track's undeniable ambiance still manages to look deeper into the everyday struggles of the common man. Now, we've all heard it. I don't need to go any deeper into this track. I'm actually here to check out the rest of the album and see what it has in store. Starting off with this more standard alt-rock ballad with violin backing titled Sonnet. Instrumentally, it all kind of takes a back seat to Ashcroft's vocals, as is with the bulk of the songs on this project. It's simply and sweetly written, feeling like a low-key Coldplay number. It starts off really well, but fades away quickly due to a lack of dynamic delivery. Soothing, but a little forgettable as soon as the longest track comes on next, The Rolling People, which is this psych-rock, laid-back cut with a pretty steady pace. About directionless drug use, it rolls along through self-aware and self-deprecation with reverb and distortion abound. The guitars are more and more inebriating, eventually left to echo chaotically as it fades out. Certainly more engaging than the last one and way less radio-friendly. Sort of surprisingly, this album's second single is the only one that hit number 1 in the UK. The Drugs Don't Work is a pretty appropriate follow-up to The Rolling People. This was due to the timing of this song's release unintentionally coinciding with the death of Princess Diana. It's a sobering, somber tale that really captured the grief of the nation in the moment, being sort of directionless yet hopeful feeling, but kind of frustrated all at the same time. A lot of emotions with the really powerfully performed vocals. Good song, and Yeah, it's been covered all over the place for good reason. Featuring a shift towards more bassy, atmospheric rock, you've got the Radiohead-inspired Catching the Butterfly next. It's similarly loose and jammy to the Rolling People, with that little bit of grip that has, but also more spacey and cryptic than that one. Neon Wilderness is short and similarly empty to Catching the Butterfly. It feels like a slow motion descent into a directionless escapism. I know that doesn't really make a lot of sense. You kind of have to listen to this one to figure that out. I can't quite put the words to it. Back to a more traditional rock ballad with space and time. Reminiscent again of Coldplay or U2. It's got those violin-backed classic rock guitars over top of these unintrusive drum and bass, all just highlighting a melodramatic vocal performance. You can probably tell I don't have a lot of patience for these corny, drawn-out, poppy radio singles. Feeling like a Western-influenced Oasis with Weeping Willow. Another pretty boring alt-rock ballad that should be probably trimmed off this already over an hour of moody tunes. Nice layered guitars carry another slow ballad right above the rest here on Lucky Man. Well written, well produced, and got similar euphoria to Bittersweet Symphony. It's badly needed here to keep me interested in what's left here on the LP. With 4 tracks left, they have to slow down again on the sensual and synthy One Day. If you're gonna have this many layers on a track, at least let them play around a bit. I feel like I'm just drowning in one-note pop ballads at this point. The retrospective this time doesn't do a whole lot to break up the droning vocals that come through pretty clear but are somehow difficult to grasp. There's better layering and less generic instrumentation, but letting this one get through to me would have taken a lot more had I not heard it within the context of the rest of the album, I think. Velvet Morning is the closer if you don't have the patience for the 15-minute come on. Slightly psychedelic and distorted, it picks it back up with a tempo shift just before I get bored of it. It really does do quite a good job salvaging what could have been a pretty bloated bestseller here. The first half of the actual closer, Come On, features vocals from Liam Gallagher and is a great get up and go send off to close this whole thing out before it fades off for 6 minutes and then returns to this overwhelming array of samples that include a crying baby. It's weird ambient left field send off to close this thing out, reminiscent of the closer on Resident Alien. There's quite a bit here to unpack for sure, and it took me a fair amount of listens to really sink my teeth into this album. Getting it into the right context was really important for me, so as the weather sort of got colder and as my mood dipped a little bit, it actually hit me in a good place with some of these melodramatic duds that I thought weren't the greatest songs when I really broke them down, but it's context, I guess, that matters, and I guess that context could manage to put this up in maybe one of the top Britpop albums of the 90s. I don't really know a whole lot beyond the Blurs and Radioheads and Coldplays or whatever, so if you think of an album that might rank amidst the top of the British 90s albums, I would love to hear a recommendation down in the comments. If you've made it all the way here in the video, please give it a like, hit me up with the subscribe for a weekly dose of these random CD thrift shop secondhand reviews. I'm loving it. I'm gonna keep it up. Hope you're loving it too. Until then, I'll keep taking you down the only road I've ever been down. Do 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 do. Beep beep beep. Whack beep beep. Whack beep beep. Beep beep.